update you really on what sort of kit you need. I've got a lot of new members, subscribers to my channel, and I've also got a lot that have come into my new Facebook group. And as part of that process, I'm getting a lot of questions about what kit they might need and what they need to buy. And I thought this was an easy way, even though I've not done many lives, to go through this with you. I've not actually announced that I'm doing this live, just in case it goes wrong, but I'm sure some of you will probably find me. If not, it'll be on the channel after. So a little bit about me first, if you are picking this up. So my name's Lynn Norris. I'm an artist and tutor. I mainly tutor in watercolour painting and have done for about 16 years. It's a fantastic medium to use. It's also the hardest medium to use, so congratulations for choosing it. It is also the most rewarding and beautiful medium, in my opinion. I've done them all over the years. I have a fine art degree and a college education in art as well, so I'm well grounded for talking to you and teaching you. So I'm going to go through a little bit about the kit that you might need. Now, I say might need because most of the time when students turn up to my classes, they have already got some kit. And I want you to use the kit you have unless it is absolutely terrible. It's important that you practice with what you've got. When you're learning, this is a new skill. It's a learned skill. Everybody can learn how to draw and paint. It's just knowing the techniques. And part of this is practicing with what you've got. You shouldn't just take the word of a tutor or take the word of another artist that tells you to get a certain brand, a certain paper. You should find what suits you. So part of that is learning with what you have. So I always say to every student that starts with me, have a go with what you've got first, have a go with what I use, then you know the difference. So this is what I use. So we're going to talk brushes first. These are my main brushes. So the main brushes that I use all the time. I have loads of brushes, but it's not very often I dip into them. These are my day-to-day painting brushes. So I'll start with this one. This is my wash brush. This is a squirrel mop with a pointed top. These are very good because they're nice and soft. They hold a lot of water. This is a large size. You can get a smaller size as well. The pointed top means you can get into all of the little corners and nitty-gritty bits that you need to get into, and it's really useful. They are pricey. You can have a goat mop as well, and that would work. So you don't have to have a pointy squirrel mop to start with. My brushes are all Prolene Pro Art brushes. And the next main brush is a round number 10. So nice point. I use mainly rounds. It's my main go-to brush, that one, unless I'm doing a small painting. Then I've got a round number 6. Then I've got a rigger. I have a tiny number 2 detailer that doesn't come out very often, mainly for pupils of eyes. And then I have, this is a small flat. This is a 1/2 inch small flat. So they're my brushes. Another thing that I need to say about brushes, I have sable brushes. These are synthetic blend. So synthetic blend have a nice spring. If you think about when you're using a brush, and if I just grab a piece of paper, using a brush and you're pushing down with a sable, when you're learning, a sable is extremely soft. It moves a lot. With a synthetic, you've got spring. That helps immensely for you to draw your lines and do your painting with control. I'm sure I forget to tell you something. So next, paint. So I use to teach Cotman paints. So I'm going to go through the colours that I use. I've got Permanent Rose. These are what I would say are the main ones. Gamboge Hue, so that's a warm, transparent yellow. Burnt Sienna, that rusty brown, raw sienna, that's a transparent sort of light mustard yellow colour, ultramarine blue. I think these are all going to be back to front because I'm supposed to flip the screen, I think, but you'll get the gist because I'm telling you, I just think it'll confuse me if I flip the screen. Sap green, it's the only pre-mixed green that I really use. Intense blue, this is a phthalo based blue, and cobalt blue. So they're my main colours. That's 2, 4, 6, 8 colours that I would say are really good for you to start with and work to learn to mix colours. If you've got those colours, you can mix pretty much any colour. It's then you're adding to. So another one that's good for autumn scenes is alizarin crimson. And then I also say a sepia is quite nice to have because it saves you keep mixing up a dark brown, especially if you're doing a lot of landscapes. But you can mix up a dark brown. So Cotman are a student quality paint. They're made by Winsor & Newton. I have used them since I was at college. They are a really good quality student paint. They have a lot of pigment, and they do really well. So in the olden days when I was at college, they weren't as light fast as artist quality, and I think that's why the reputation of having artist quality has come through quite a lot. But the student quality paints are really good these days, and if you were learning, then the difference in price is significant. I mean, these are 9mm tubes, and they're round about £3. They vary. You can get them cheaper sometimes, you can get them when they're a bit more expensive. The 21mm tubes, which are a bigger size, usually about £5.50. If you compare that to, let me just get, so I have some professional quality here. Just grab one of these out. So that's a 5mm tube against a 9mm tube. That one's roughly probably £7. So £7, £3. If you're learning, that's a lot more paint for your money. So this is why I teach with Cotman. Cotman are also a very good, it's very good if you're then moving up to Winsor & Newton Professional, which I do have as well. Most of my videos and tuition will all be done with Cotman. Occasionally I dip into Daniel Smith because I'm trying out new things as well, and occasionally I dip into Winsor & Newton Professional, but the mainstay of my work is on Cotman and will always be on Cotman because they are very reliable, very true colours, very natural colours. So that's all important to me. But that doesn't mean that it's important to you. It's finding what is right for you. So I'm just giving you my opinion here. Okay, what else will you need? Every time you're coming to do watercolour, you will need some kitchen towel. You might need a pencil and rubber as well. You'll also need a water pot. So this is my big water pot. I have several water pots. Sometimes I just use empty yogurt pots when I'm going around doing classes. Basically, you want 2 pots. You want one for dirty water and one for clean water. This just enables you not to keep getting up to change your water. You want your water to be nice and clean when you're going onto your paper. This is just sort of general housekeeping. You'll also need a palette. So it's a nice stained one for you to see. So I recommend these daisy palettes. You can get 2. They basically shut together, which is quite useful. They're very easy to clean. They can go in the dishwasher if you wipe most of the paint off. And this is what I use for my students. So they work really quite nicely. You can also get sets. So this is a set that I use in my super easy beginners tutorials. And it's a pan set. So these are hard paints and they come with a little palette. And these are quite good value. This is Cotman again. Slightly different colours. I can go through these colours with you. I think this set's available. I can link it onto the comments at the end. I think this set's still readily available. So you've got a few more reds in here. You've got cadmium red, you've got the permanent rose that I use a lot. Purple Lake, don't use that very often, but it's quite a nice colour. Chinese white, cerulean blue, alizarin crimson, a couple of yellows, lemon yellow and cadmium yellow, sap green, viridian, burnt umber, ultramarine, burnt sienna, and lamp black. So that's a nice selection here. You get lots of these types of palettes if you were to look at the Cotman website. They're all pretty useful and good for beginners to start to just dabble and mix your own colours. So when I'm doing something like a beach scene, I would ideally use for the sand raw sienna, but you'll see on my super easy beginners tutorials that I'm using this palette all the time, so I show you how to make it, and I'll use the cadmium yellow to make it. So you don't have to stick totally to all the colours that I say. I think that's really important. And don't go out and buy tons and tons of stuff. Practice with what you've got and gradually increase it. Now I can see lots of little things coming up on the chat bit, and my son said I need to not ignore the chat, but I have to put my glasses on, so I will do that at some point and try and say hello to some of this that's coming through. Okay, so I've told you about that, Okay, so let's talk about paper. So paper, I use a cotton paper. This is the most important bit of watercolour. If you are going to invest your money in anything, I say invest it in a cotton paper. So this is Saunders Waterford. I always use the rough paper. It is £140 in weight, or 300 GSM. Now this is a 1/4 imperial sheet that I've tore down into 4 pieces. So this is what I would use for my super easy beginners tutorials. A 1/4 imperial sheet is about 11 by 15 inches. So it's a nice manageable size. You often can't find cotton papers at art shops. You've got to go online to get them. So other cotton papers that I know of are Arches, which is extremely expensive. I can't afford Arches, so good luck to you if you can afford it. It's a fabulous paper, absolutely lovely, but it's just a little bit too pricey for me. Saunders Waterford is the one that I use, and it's readily available in the UK from all the main art suppliers. You can get a knot, which is a cold press paper, and you can get a smooth in it as well. I use rough for everything. Over the years, I've found that I like that texture. Classically, you should use a knot for detailed work and for flowers, and then a smooth for botanical work, which is extremely detailed. But I'm quite loose with my application, and I prefer the rough paper, so just stick to that. You can also get, this is a lot of information I'm giving you all in one go, this is standard white paper, which is slightly off-white. You can get a high white, which is very white as well. So there's 2 different types of paper. Other suppliers you might find can be a bit cheaper that do a cotton paper are Clairefontaine. They do a lovely cotton paper. Fabriano, you can sometimes get some good deals, and they do a lovely cotton paper as well. Trying to think of there's some that I've not used online. I think there's one called Behong that I've seen in groups that's readily available from places like Temu and Amazon, and that might be okay. I don't know. I can't comment on that. I can comment on the ones that I've used and that are very good. If you're not quite in the market for a cotton paper and you think, oh, that's a bit too pricey, so from my perspective, I will use this both sides. So that's another thing, another tip with a cotton paper is you can practice on both sides. So it's worth the money in my opinion, but you can go down to a cellulose paper, which is made often with wood pulp, and just choose a good quality cellulose paper. This thing's called practice papers. The paper for St Cuthbert's Mill, which makes Saunders Waterford, is Bockingford, and that's still a lovely paper to use. The difference with the cotton paper is it's very forgiving. If you think cotton and you're applying water to this paper, If you think of a cotton rag, it soaks the water up, it dries evenly. If you think about a cellulose wood pulp paper, you're applying a layer of water on the top. If you're not consistent with that water, one patch might be wetter for longer. So you have to put less water on. You have to move a lot quicker with the cellulose paper. Cotton paper is the watercolorist's best kept secret, and it needs to be distributed more. So cotton, 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 if you can get it. If you can afford it, it's definitely worth it. Okay, I've got a little list here of things to make sure that I'm telling you. So I've told you about paints. So let's have a little talk about mixers. So I'm going to get a palette and I'm going to squirt a little bit of water into it. I'm going to use my pans just for ease of explaining this and not having to squeeze out tubes. So if you can see here, there is about half a teaspoon of water in that well. What I would usually say for a mix is to take a pea-sized blob into half a teaspoon of water. So I'm just going to take a bit into here. So this is using my round number 10. And then what I want to show you, so this is another good thing for you to have that I forgot to tell you, scrap paper. So bits of scrap paper you can test colours on is very, very useful. It means that you're being consistent. Right, this has got a little bit of a picture. I tend to, so what I want to show you there is that is what I would class as a milky mix. So I'm going to show you 3 mixers. So you're going to end up with a milky consistency, which you can see it running round. And then if I dip a little bit of water with my round number 10. So the first time I've used my wash brush and half a teaspoon of water. This time I've used my round number 10, dipped in a little bit of water, and I'm still going to take roughly the same amount of paint. And what you've got then is milk. This is cream, so it's a bit thicker. You can see the difference there. So these are the types of different washes that I would use. And then what I often use as well is basically neat paint. So I'm just going to take it out of here. You can see there, that's a bit thicker. So they're the 3 mixers you really need to think about. I don't want to overload you with information. How I teach, I basically go through a picture step by step. It's a small picture, it's a bite-sized chunk for you to learn. So there might be a couple of techniques in there. We'll talk about techniques now. So the main techniques that you will start to learn is wet in wet, wet on dry, dry on dry, and basically more detailed work, which tends to be wet on dry and dry on dry. There's lots of other little bits within the techniques element, but they're the main ones. And the tricky one to learn is the wet in wet washes. And I am going to show you a little wash, so you understand how to do that and you can have a little practice. But in my tutorials, I'm giving you a little scene to do. That scene will show you a couple of techniques that will give you a chance to learn those ones. You won't get them straight away. It's all about practice. But then the next tutorial you do, and I've got about 65 super easy beginner tutorials, you'll remember a little bit of it. So you'll think, oh yeah, I remember that. I can remember that, so I haven't got to learn that bit. We'll do it again, we'll practice. And bit by bit, these bite-sized chunks start to add up. So I'm not a tutor that goes in and says, right, we're going to do a colour wheel and we're going to pop all those colours on. You're going to learn as you go along, because in my experience, learned experience is the best way. If I'm teaching you to bake a cake, baking a cake is the way to learn. If I say to you, write the recipe out, it's not as easy to learn it. So it's more of a learned experience. The other thing that I say to all my students when they start with me is everybody started at one point. Some people have more experience than others, but when you start, you've got to learn. If I said to you, go and play a round of golf now, would you be good at it? If you've learned golf, then and this is it, you've got to learn the techniques. So don't be disappointed as it takes time. It takes time. I still go wrong now. You will see it in videos. But what I do is I show you how I correct my mistakes. So let's have a little go with some water. So you've got your wash brush, you're coming into some clean water. I'm going to pop an even coat on. You'll see I'm going over twice, but there's no puddles there. There's just an even sheen. You can see that. I've got everywhere on that paper. If you hold it at eye level, you can see the sheen and you know you've covered it. You don't want puddles because that's not going to help. And then I'm going to take my round number 10. Help if I get the right brush. And I'm going to use the milky consistency first. So you can see that I'm coming on with this milky consistency. I always work flat for the purposes of the camera here, so you can see I'm holding up. But if you hold up, what happens? In wet, it runs down. So you're always better, an element of control, to work flat. So you can see there, that's the milky consistency that's gone in. I'm going to dip into the creamy consistency. You can see that coming in now. So much thicker. When the paint's thicker, it doesn't go as far, so it doesn't spread as far in wet. And then if I come in with neat paint, so I'm going to come along this, I know this is all in one colour, but it's showing you. So if I was to do some trees at the bottom in neat paint, it's still going to have a nice softness, but it's not flowing too far. So that gives you a little idea on mixers. Okay, what do I use to dry it? Hairdryer. So I have several hairdryers. I've never bought a heat gun. You can just go for a cuppa and then come back 10 minutes later. But if you're impatient like me, hairdryer on a low setting, high up, or she'll blow the paint around, and keep circling it evenly. So that's a really good tip there. So I think I'm about there. I'm not going to overload you, but I am going to look at some of it. I've got loads of comments here, so I'm going to try and look through those, but I need to put my glasses on to do that. So what would I say to you as a pro, as my tips? So my tips are, and I say these frequently in class, never fiddle. So once I've done that, that's my wash done, and all of that is settling. If I come in with more water or more paint and it's not wet enough, that's when you get things called watermarks. You'll see them, you'll do them. Do not fiddle. So you are better to let it dry and try and fix it after. I've got a whole playlist on techniques which goes through how to fix things when it goes wrong. It goes through mixing colours, it goes through water. I'll link the playlist in the comments. I'll link the playlist to my Super Easy Beginners tutorials in the comments as well, so you can access all of these. I'll also put a link for my Facebook group as well, so you can ask me questions through that, and share any work that you're doing from my tutorials. So Less is more. I say this a lot. I say, stop, stop, stop. I walk around class. I say, that's looking great. And then I come back around 5 minutes later and say, stop, stop. Stop when you think you're 80% done. Go away from your work and then come back and look at it. It's a really good tip. Even I sometimes still overwork things, but you don't need as much detail as you think. And then my final, before I go through all these comments, is to say, enjoy the process. It's lovely to be able to paint. It's mindful. You're creating something and you should enjoy it. And that's the main thing about the whole of this process. What I love about my job, seeing people develop and the enjoyment of the process. So I hope that helps. I'm going to stick my glasses on before I go and see if I can read any of these comments. Oh, yeah, there's lots. Hairdryer is a must. Oh, so thank you. There's some comments. Happy New Year. I don't know how to move these. I'm not very good with technology. Why you paint? Yeah, there's some very horrible comments on here as well, but there are some nice ones from some of you that actually are serious about painting. The world of online. Oh, thanks, Shelley. I'm glad you've tuned in. I needed to show you this. Thank you. Lovely. Well, thank you very much for all your comments. I'm not sure how I reply to them on here, but I hope you found that useful. And I will come up and process and come up as a tutorial anyway. So I shall see you next time. Bye.